What would you do if your own family treated you like a stranger? Imagine living in the same house, eating at the same table, and sharing the same last name, yet feeling completely invisible. Every birthday passed without excitement. Every achievement went unnoticed. Every dream was ignored. For 17 years, Emma Parker lived that life. Her parents adored her older brother and gave him everything he wanted. But Emma, to them, she was nothing more than a burden, a mistake they wished had never happened. They never imagined that the quiet girl they constantly ignored would one day become the person everyone admired. And when that day finally came, the same family that once rejected her would desperately beg for a second chance. But by then, it was already too late. This is the story of Emma Parker, the daughter nobody wanted. Emma Parker grew up in a beautiful house in a peaceful neighborhood. From the outside, her family looked perfect. They had money. They had respect. They had everything most people dreamed of. But appearances can be deceiving. Behind the smiling family photos, hanging on the walls was a painful truth that nobody knew. Emma was never treated like a member of the family. She was treated like an afterthought. Even as a child, she could feel the difference. When her older brother Jason wanted a new bicycle, he got it immediately. When Emma asked for something, the answer was almost always no. When Jason made a mistake, her parents laughed and called it a learning experience. When Emma made a mistake, she was criticized for days. At first, she didn't understand why. She was just a little girl who wanted her parents to love her. Every morning, she would wake up hoping that today would be different. But it never was. One afternoon, when Emma was only 8 years old, her school organized an art competition. Emma spent days working on her drawing. She poured her heart into every detail. When the winners were announced, she couldn't believe her ears. First place. She had won. Her teacher praised her talent in front of the entire class. For the rest of the day, Emma couldn't stop smiling. She couldn't wait to tell her parents. As soon as she got home, she ran into the living room. "Dad, Mom, look what I won." Her father briefly looked away from the television. Her mother barely glanced at the certificate. "That's nice," her father said. Then he returned to watching TV. That was it. No congratulations, no excitement, no celebration, nothing. Emma stood there silently for several seconds. The smile slowly disappeared from her face. Later that same evening, Jason came home after scoring a goal during a soccer game. The reaction was completely different. Her parents cheered. They ordered pizza. They called relatives. They celebrated for hours. Emma sat quietly in her room listening to their laughter downstairs. Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, she asked herself a question that would follow her for years. Why am I never enough? The years passed, but nothing changed. If anything, the distance between Emma and her family only grew larger. By the time she reached middle school, she had stopped expecting praise. She had stopped expecting attention. She had stopped expecting love. Every day felt the same. Wake up, go to school, come home, stay quiet, avoid disappointment. At school, however, Emma was different. She was one of the best students in her class. Her teachers admired her determination. Her classmates respected her intelligence. Many people believed she had a bright future ahead of her. But nobody knew what happened when she went home. Nobody knew how lonely she felt. One afternoon, Emma returned from school carrying another award. This time, it was for academic excellence. The principal had personally handed it to her during a school assembly. She carefully placed the certificate on the dining table. Her parents didn't notice. When dinner started, Jason immediately began talking about a basketball practice session. For the next 20 minutes, the entire conversation revolved around him. Nobody asked Emma about her day. Nobody noticed the certificate sitting right in front of them. After dinner, Emma quietly picked it up and carried it back to her room. She placed it inside a drawer beside several other certificates. A drawer full of achievements. a drawer nobody had ever opened. That night, she stared at the ceiling and wondered what it would feel like to have parents who were proud of her. What would it feel like to be loved? What would it feel like to matter? Unfortunately, she had no answers. As she grew older, Emma learned to hide her pain behind a smile. Whenever people asked about her family, she pretended everything was fine. She didn't want anyone to know the truth. The truth hurt too much. One day, during her sophomore year of high school, a new student joined her class. Her name was Sophia. Unlike most students, Sophia quickly noticed that Emma often sat alone. One afternoon, she walked over and sat beside her. "Why are you always by yourself?" Sophia asked. Emma shrugged. "I don't know." Sophia smiled. "Well, you're not alone anymore." For the first time in years, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: friendship. And that friendship would soon change her life. Sophia became Emma's closest friend. The two girls spent countless hours studying together, sharing dreams, and talking about the future. For the first time, Emma had someone who genuinely cared about her. One weekend, Sophia invited Emma to her house. Emma was nervous. She had never spent much time around another family before. When she arrived, something immediately felt different. Sophia's parents welcomed her with warm smiles. They asked about her interests. They listened when she spoke. They treated her like she mattered. At dinner, everyone shared stories and laughed together. Emma couldn't remember the last time she had seen a family like this. On the way home, she sat quietly in the car. A strange feeling filled her chest. Not jealousy, sadness. Because now she understood exactly what she had been missing all these years. When she got home, nobody asked where she had been. Nobody cared. Her parents were busy discussing Jason's upcoming basketball tournament. Emma walked straight to her room. But something had changed inside her. For years, she believed every family was like hers. Now she knew the truth. A family was supposed to support one another. A family was supposed to care. And for the first time, she realized the problem was never her. The problem was them. That realization became a turning point. Instead of trying to earn their approval, Emma began focusing on herself. She studied harder than ever. She joined writing competitions. She volunteered at local events. She worked on becoming the best version of herself. If her family didn't believe in her, she would believe in herself. And that decision would soon lead to something extraordinary. By the time Emma turned 17, she had become one of the top students in the state. Her grades were exceptional. Her teachers constantly encouraged her to apply to prestigious universities. One teacher in particular, Mrs. Anderson, believed Emma had unlimited potential. One afternoon, she called Emma into her office. "Have you thought about applying to Westbridge University?" Emma's eyes widened. Westbridge was one of the most respected universities in the country. Students from around the world dreamed of studying there. "I don't think I could afford it," Emma admitted. Mrs. Anderson smiled. "That's what scholarships are for." For the next several months, Emma worked harder than she ever had before. Every evening was spent studying. Every weekend was spent preparing applications. While her family focused entirely on Jason's sports career, Emma quietly built her future. Then came the day she would never forget. A large envelope arrived in the mail. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The first sentence nearly took her breath away. "Congratulations! You have been accepted." Emma stared at the letter in disbelief. Not only had she been accepted, she had received a full scholarship. Tears filled her eyes. For years she had felt invisible. For years she had been told directly or indirectly that she wasn't important. Yet here was proof that her hard work mattered. Proof that she mattered. She couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in her life, she felt hopeful about the future. She had no idea that the biggest challenge was still ahead. That evening, Emma sat at the dinner table clutching the acceptance letter. Her heart raced with excitement. This was the moment she had dreamed about for years. Maybe this achievement would finally make her parents proud. Maybe this time would be different. As everyone finished eating, Emma took a deep breath. I have something important to tell you. Her father looked up briefly. What is it? Emma smiled nervously. I got accepted into Westbridge University. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then she added, I also received a full scholarship. She waited for congratulations. Instead, her father's expression became serious. Westbridge is too far away. Emma blinked. But it's one of the best universities in the country. Her mother crossed her arms. We don't think it's a good idea. Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. What do you mean? Her father leaned back in his chair. You should stay here and attend a local college. But why? Before anyone could answer, Jason laughed. Maybe because they actually want you around to help with chores. Everyone chuckled except Emma. She felt her stomach twist. Even now, after everything she had accomplished, nobody seemed proud. Nobody seemed happy for her. That night she cried quietly in her room. Not because she failed, but because she finally understood something painful. Nothing she ever achieved would be enough for them. Nothing. For the first time in her life, she stopped trying to win their approval. Over the next few weeks, Emma made a decision. She was going to Westbridge, with or without her family's support. The scholarship covered her tuition. She worked extra hours at the bookstore to save money. Mrs. Wilson encouraged her every step of the way. You deserve this opportunity, she said. Don't let anyone take it away from you. The day before she left, Emma packed her belongings into 2 small suitcases. Everything she owned fit inside them. As she looked around her room, memories flooded her mind. Years of loneliness, years of rejection, years of hoping things would change. But they never did. The next morning, she carried her suitcases downstairs. Her parents barely looked up. There were no hugs, no emotional goodbyes, no words of encouragement, just silence. Emma forced a smile. Goodbye. Her father nodded. Take care. That was all. After 17 years, that was all they had to say. As the taxi drove away, Emma looked back one last time. No one stood outside watching. No one waved. For a brief moment, her heart broke. Then she turned forward. A new chapter was beginning. And for the first time in her life, she was completely free. Westbridge University was unlike anything Emma had ever experienced. The campus was beautiful. The students were ambitious. The opportunities seemed endless. At first, she felt overwhelmed. Everyone appeared confident and successful, but Emma quickly discovered that she belonged there. Her intelligence and work ethic earned respect from professors. Within months, she became one of the top students in her program. She joined leadership groups. She participated in research projects. She won academic awards. For the first time, people recognized her talent. People valued her ideas. People listened when she spoke. Something inside her began to heal. The lonely girl who once questioned her worth was slowly disappearing. In her place stood a young woman filled with confidence. Years passed. Emma graduated at the top of her class. During graduation day, families filled the stadium. Parents hugged their children. Proud smiles appeared everywhere. Emma sat alone. No family members had come. Not even one. For a moment, the old pain returned. Then she heard applause. Mrs. Wilson and Sophia were standing in the crowd. Both were cheering loudly. Tears filled Emma's eyes. They weren't family by blood, but they had become family by choice. And sometimes that matters even more. After graduation, Emma received an offer from one of the country's largest technology companies. The salary was more money than she had ever imagined. Her career took off quickly. Within a few years, she became one of the youngest executives in the company's history. Her success attracted attention. Articles were written about her achievements. Interviews appeared online. People admired her story. Eventually, one of those articles reached her hometown. And for the first time in years, her family noticed her. Her father stared at the newspaper in disbelief. Her mother read every word twice. Jason could hardly believe it. The daughter they had ignored for years was now successful beyond their expectations. Suddenly, they wanted to reconnect. Phone calls began arriving. Messages appeared. Voicemails filled her inbox. At first, Emma didn't respond. She wasn't angry. She simply didn't know what to say. Years of neglect couldn't be erased with a few phone calls. Some wounds take longer to heal, and some scars never disappear completely. One afternoon, Emma received a message from her mother. The message was different. It wasn't about her success. It wasn't about money. It simply said, "We miss you." Emma stared at the screen for a long time. Part of her wanted to ignore it. Part of her wanted answers. Eventually, she agreed to visit. When she arrived at her childhood home, everything looked smaller, older, different. Her parents greeted her at the door. For the first time in her life, she saw guilt in their eyes. The conversation was difficult. Tears were shed. Mistakes were acknowledged. Her parents admitted they had treated her unfairly. They admitted they had failed her. They admitted they had spent years favoring Jason. Emma listened quietly. For years she had imagined this moment, yet it didn't feel the way she expected. The apology couldn't change the past, but it mattered. Because for the first time, they were finally telling the truth. And sometimes truth is where healing begins. As the evening came to an end, Emma stood outside the house where she had spent most of her childhood. The same house where she had cried herself to sleep. The same house where she had felt invisible. Yet now she felt something different. Peace. Not because the past had disappeared. Not because everything had been fixed. But because she had survived it. She had built a life despite every obstacle. She had succeeded despite every rejection. She had proven that her worth was never determined by other people's opinions. Before leaving, her father stopped her. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Emma looked at him. For years, those were the words she desperately wanted to hear. Now they finally arrived. She smiled gently. "I know." Then she got into her car and drove away. Not as the forgotten daughter, not as the unwanted child, but as a strong, successful woman who had discovered her true value. And as the city lights glowed in the distance, Emma realized something important. The people who fail to see your worth do not define your future. You define it yourself. The end. After meeting her family again, Emma returned to her apartment feeling emotionally exhausted. For years, she had imagined what she would say if she ever faced them again. Yet when the moment finally arrived, none of those speeches seemed important anymore. Her life had moved forward. She had changed. And deep down, she knew she couldn't live in the past forever. The following months brought new opportunities. Emma was promoted again. Her leadership skills impressed everyone around her. Soon, she was managing projects worth millions of dollars. Employees respected her. Executives trusted her. And young women across the country began seeing her as an inspiration. One afternoon, she was invited to speak at a university conference. Hundreds of students filled the auditorium. As Emma stood on stage, she remembered the lonely girl she once was. The girl who thought she wasn't good enough. The girl who felt invisible. Looking across the audience, she smiled. "If nobody believes in you," she said, "believe in yourself until they do." The room erupted into applause. For the first time, Emma realized her pain had a purpose. Her story could help others. Her struggles could inspire others. And that realization meant more than any promotion ever could. Several weeks later, Emma received an unexpected phone call. It was Jason, her brother. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. Then she answered, "Hello." There was silence. Then Jason spoke softly. "I owe you an apology." Emma was surprised. Jason had never apologized for anything before. "I spent years believing I deserved everything," he admitted. "I never realized how unfair things were." Emma listened quietly. Jason continued, The truth is, Mom and Dad didn't do me any favors either. What do you mean? They taught me to expect everything without earning it. Emma had never thought about it that way. Growing up, Jason appeared to have everything, but maybe he had paid a price too. A different kind of price. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. For the first time, they talked honestly, not as rivals, not as strangers, but as brother and sister. And when the call ended, both felt lighter than they had in years. 1 year later, Emma decided to launch a foundation. Its mission was simple: helping overlooked young people achieve their dreams. Scholarships, mentorship programs, educational support. Everything she wished she had received growing up. The foundation grew rapidly. Thousands of students applied. Hundreds received assistance. Letters began arriving from families across the country. Some thanked Emma for changing their lives. Others shared stories that sounded painfully familiar. Stories about feeling ignored. Stories about feeling unwanted. Stories about struggling to find confidence. Each letter reminded Emma why she started. Because somewhere out there, another young person was sitting alone wondering if they mattered. And Emma wanted them to know they did. 5 years after leaving home, Emma received a special invitation. Her former high school wanted her to deliver the graduation speech. The same school where she once sat quietly in the back of classrooms. The same school where she dreamed of a better future. Standing backstage, she felt nervous. Then she heard her name announced. The audience applauded. As Emma walked onto the stage, she noticed familiar faces, teachers, former classmates, community leaders, and sitting near the front row, her parents. They looked older now, prouder too. For a moment, their eyes met. Then Emma stepped toward the microphone. When I was younger, she began. I believed success meant proving people wrong. The audience listened carefully. But I've learned something different. She paused. Success isn't about revenge. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be. The crowd rose to its feet, a standing ovation. And as Emma looked around the auditorium, she felt something she had never felt growing up. She felt seen. That evening, Emma stood outside the school watching the sunset. The sky glowed with shades of orange and gold. Her parents slowly approached. Neither spoke for a moment. Finally, her mother broke the silence. We're proud of you. Years ago, those words would have meant everything. Now they were simply a gift that had arrived late, but a gift nonetheless. Emma smiled. Thank you. Her father looked down. You deserved better from us. Emma nodded. Maybe he was right, but dwelling on the past would not change it. She had spent too many years carrying that weight. It was time to let it go. As she walked toward her car, she thought about everything that had happened. The loneliness, the heartbreak, the rejection, the success, the forgiveness. Every chapter had shaped who she became. And despite all the pain, she wouldn't change her journey. Because it taught her the most important lesson of all. Your value does not come from the people who overlook you. Your value comes from who you choose to become. And with that thought, Emma smiled at the future waiting ahead. A future she had built herself. The end.